What is good, beautiful people? I hope you're having a great day wherever you are and that your weekend has been lovely. So, today I wanted to chat a little bit about self-fulfilling prophecies. I think our life is generally a self-fulfilling prophecy. And there are people who will agree with this and there are people that don't. And to them, I say, you're right. Because, again, our life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you believe, whatever you think you're capable of, whatever you set forth, or even what you fear and what you don't want to happen, has a way of happening. Now, there will be instances outside of these things, right? Like something happens to you, a tragic event, stuff like this, right? That's not really important in the conversation. But what I would like you to do is think about times in your life where you just knew something was going to happen, whether it's positive or negative. You just had this feeling, you just had this knowing that this thing is going to happen. Any of those times that those things happened, you can point it back to that feeling, that knowing that something was going to happen. And you could say you can see the future, right? You can predict these things. And maybe that's true. But it's equally as likely that you willed it to happen. You know, we're more connected than some of us would like to believe. We've all had this scenario. And if you haven't, please let me know in the comments. I think you would be an anomaly if you haven't had this experience occur, where you know someone's looking at you. Maybe you're in a public place. You just get this feeling, the feeling that someone's looking at you, right? And you look over and sure enough, they're looking at you. Most people can relate to this situation, and the very mechanics of this mean that we're all connected, right? It would have to. How would you know? It's not like you feel their eyes on you, and maybe you do intuitively, but you know because you're connected, right? Their energy is coming to you somehow. It's not coincidence that you looked up. It's not coincidence that you had this thought and then it was either happening or happened. And I think we like to assume that we can't influence reality because if we do honor that and believe that to be true, then we have to take as much responsibility for the good that happens as well as the negative. And, a lot of people, based out of fear, they think about the worst case that could possibly happen, right? They think about this in detail because they want to be prepared for it. They want to be ready for when it happens. And unknowingly, they help will it to happen because where your attention goes, energy flows. If you want something to not exist anymore, it's not that you think about it not existing. You just can't give it any attention, as if it never existed. Because negative attention, positive attention, it's the same thing in the eyes of energy. In the eyes of energy, it's attention, meaning you want more of that. You will seek that. That's why if you play the game Red Car, right, you start seeing red cars everywhere. Or if you are, let's say you have a car that you really want. Have you ever noticed that any of these things that you decide you want, maybe you're saving up for something or this or that, you start seeing it everywhere, literally everywhere? It's because this mechanism is it changes your focus. These things were there already. It's not like you brought them, out of thin air to you, right? It's just that now you're focused on it. So this is how the self-fulfilling prophecy works. If you assume all people are bad, you look for the bad in all people. If you assume all people are good, you look for the good in all people. If you're in a situation and you believe that it won't go out in your favor, because it never goes in your favor. Maybe you're applying for a job and you're just like, man, I never get these kinds of things. I'm just going to shoot my shot. What does that say energetically? What does that say about you? Right? It says you're preparing for defeat. You're preparing to lose. You are assuming that you will lose. And then you don't get it, right? And you're like, see, I knew. But you could be on the flip side of that. You could think, no, this is for sure in the bag, right? This is for sure what I'm going to get. And you get it. Like, all of these things cannot predict with certainty reality, right? But our assumptions on how things work, our beliefs in how the world works, how people will be, if we're prosperous, if we're not, if we're lucky, if we're unlucky. All of these things give us a point of reference, right? A compass in which, a lens in which we view the world. So then what we do subconsciously is we look for things that validate our internal beliefs. And this is where the self-fulfilling prophecy comes in, because whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whether you think you will or you won't, you're right. You think nothing will ever change, your life is just horrible. You're right. And we don't want to look at that, right? We don't want to admit that. You know, there's as many people scared of all the good that can happen in their life as there are people who are scared of the bad that can happen. It's why if something comes into our life, right, and maybe you can relate, something comes into our life that is just so beyond what we're our comfort zone. And our comfort zone can be a lot of things that are negative, right? It can be, I'm comfortable being poor. I'm comfortable being unhealthy, right? I'm comfortable having bad relationships. I'm comfortable being taken advantage of. It doesn't mean you like these things, but these are your comfort zone. If this is where you've lived and these are the experiences that you've had, then this is your comfort zone, right? And even if you don't want that, right? You don't want that. That is your comfort zone. And something happens outside of this. Maybe you get like a really good job, or you get into a great relationship, or you're healthy now. Maybe you're not poor, right? Something happens outside of your comfort zone. You will do whatever you can. Your subconscious will do whatever it can to bring you back into the familiar, right? Maybe you mess up and self-sabotage that relationship, or you do something. You do something that ruins that because you don't believe you're worthy. Your beliefs are here. And this, although it's great, it sounds good, right? It's actually maybe what you want, but not what you focused on because you don't believe you're worthy or this or that. You're going to do whatever you can to come back into this little comfort bubble. And this happens with good or bad. If you got really far out of your comfort zone and went negative, even more than you were in this, hypothetical scenario, you would also do whatever you could to bring yourself back to equilibrium. And that's what it is. It's your equilibrium. So the more we can look at these things, and maybe it has to do with like living experience, because I've had both. I've had where I've viewed the world completely negative, and I've had all these beliefs that weren't serving me, and they all came true one by one. My life was a disaster. And I realized, I'm like, wait a second, like, how's that so? How's this so? Like, how are all these things happening? I thought, like, okay, maybe I can see the future, But I was like, okay, what if I change my focus? And this is where experience comes in. Maybe there are things that you can do in your life where you look back and you're like, wait a second, there's no way that all of these things are happening how I was thinking. Like, it doesn't make sense. You'll start seeing it doesn't make sense. And the only thing that starts to make sense is that you have some sort of control. You are directing the show. You are picking things out of existence that validate your beliefs. And this is in psychology too. It's confirmation bias. Whatever you believe, you're going to look for supporting evidence of. It doesn't even matter if your belief is rooted in anything real, right? Our beliefs can be completely delusional, negative, positive, right? But it doesn't matter. What we'll do is then we'll filter out information that serves and validates these beliefs. But that mechanism you can take charge of. You can change. Especially, you're in a great place, especially if your life is completely down in the dumps, because with a few shifts of focus in belief, in love for yourself, compassion for where you are, you can change things pretty quickly. You just have to be willing to accept that you are influencing your reality, that you subconsciously are seeking things to validate your known reality, your beliefs. It's also fascinating. When we change our beliefs, we change how we interact with the world. And like I was saying before, it's not foolproof, right? It's not like, okay, I believe the world is going to open up to me, or I believe I'm going to buy one lottery ticket and I'm going to hit the lotto, right? Like, it's not how it works. But you'd be misguided if you didn't believe that your thoughts, your actions, and how you perceive the world influences your reality. And if anything is going to guide you to a closer reality, it's going to be you. Nothing magical is going to fall out of the sky. Nothing, I mean, maybe something magical will fall out of the sky for you, but chances are very slim. The only real shot, I believe, for our lives to get better is for us to change the internal dialogue, is to change the focus, change the story. We do this already. We just do it subconsciously. We do it unknowingly. We do it unconsciously. But if you can take hold of that and understand that mechanism, it can also work in your benefit. And you will be better off, and you will see your life start to change. I know this has happened for me many times. You have to get real with yourself. You have to look yourself kindly and directly in the mirror and see where things are falling apart and take ownership of your part in that process. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Definitely let me know if this was impactful in the comments or if anything, anything came to mind for you when I was chatting, and I'll see you on the next one.